everybody. Welcome back. We are here in sunny Tampa with my friend Stephen Ballard from RCN Capital. And I'm going to actually let you explain what you do over at RCN, because I know I just asked you and you gave me all this cool, crazy, complicated stuff. But yeah, tell us a little bit about you and RCN Capital and what you guys do, and really more importantly, what you do for the industry.
Sure. So, Stephen, I run partnerships for RCN Capital, and RCN is a nationwide lender for real estate investment properties. So you're fix and flip stuff, you're fix and rent, even your ground up construction, all that kind of stuff, but mostly in that 1 to 4 family range.
Okay.
And then really the place industry-wise that we try to stick out is to not just tell you, hey, this deal's approved, this deal's not, whatever, but to go through and say, why is this a good idea? Why is this not a good idea? Why does this deal work, or why does it not? And kind of give a little bit more of the behind the scenes, the way that we look at deals, so people can take that and say, okay, if the first deal doesn't work, how do I find a second one that's...
Yeah, that's interesting. I remember going way back when I just started getting into real estate in the early 2000s, and people would say, hey, here's a hard money lender. And we could definitely talk about the differences between you and some other hard money lenders. Yeah. But, I had mentors and people that would say, hey, if you take this deal to to this lender, hard money lender or whatever, and they won't fund it, it means it's a bad deal, right? So you guys are, that ultimate kind of backstop of, hey, let me review your deal. So I love that you guys do that.
That is kind of the way that we look at it, which is, and I actively tell people, at some point we're going to make you angry because we're going to say no to a deal that you thought was incredible. Yeah. Right.
Well, what investors never fall in love with a deal, right? That doesn't happen.
It's one of the first rules that I tell people is the second that you start to get emotional, you should be out.
Right.
When you start imagining your kids living there, how much you love the neighborhood, or any of that kind of stuff, immediately you should pull out.
And that's more of a a new investor kind of problem than people like me. I'm like, it's just another house, right? Like there'll be another one after this. But sure, that's I mean that's definitely something that I bet you see a lot with newer investors. Because they work so hard. They think they've got this deal and they just want to make it work, and I'll do anything to just do this deal because I want to get one done. So you guys, you said you do fix and flips. And then new ground up construction, and then long-term rentals?
Yeah. And most of what we've been doing over the last few years has been the classic BRRRR strategy stuff. So we'll help people purchase, renovate, and then refinance it and hold it as a rental. Obviously, as the market shifts, we're going to shift too, but that's where we've been at and where most investors have been.
Cool. So you guys, you're kind of like doing a bunch of different things in the lending area. So first off, I've been an investor for 22 years, never used hard money. Crazy. I've used that so much. I've had so much private money. But so normally, an investor will go out and they'll find someone to put up some money, like a hard money lender at, whatever the rates are, right? 12, 15, 8, 20, whatever the interest rates are. But then the BRRRR part is they then have to go find another lender, like a local bank or somebody, to refinance out. But you do that all kind of together.
Yeah. Okay. So, I mean, if someone was doing the exact same strategy 20 years ago, that's what you'd have to do. You'd have to go to hard money lender, local private lender, whatever, and then you'd go and try to refinance out conventional. And then really only within the last 10 years or so, that's when you've seen us and a number of other lenders across the industry start to do more of the long-term takeout options that traditionally were bank only. Yeah. And the big thing that's changed in that market has been more and more lenders like us are basing on property cash flow rather than personal income. Right. And that's a huge game changer, especially for investors, where if your financial team is good, you're not going to show a lot of income.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. So, and the reality of it is RCN, I know you guys do it, and you say a lot of other people are doing it as well, but they're really not. A lot of them are hard money lenders, and then they're using you guys. They're just white labeling your product. Fair. I know this because I had to refinance out of one of my sub-2s at one point, and afterwards I realized, I'm like, RCN Capital, why does that sound so familiar? Damn. So, well, cool. So that definitely gives you guys an advantage, and it's a much better one-stop shop for the consumer, for the investor, right? Yeah. Because it's less aggravation and headache. Because I can tell you, every time one of my notes comes due, and after that 5 years or whatever, it's so much hassle and aggravation to get reapply or whatever it is I have to do to get that loan renewed for another 5 years.
Yeah. The good thing, though, for those of you investors who find that same struggle, that is where we've come out with these new loan products across the years, is from investors telling us like, man, it's such a pain that you guys don't do this. And we go, what if we were to do that? Yeah. And that's kind of where it starts. So it does help, even if it's annoying.
Yeah. So what don't you do? Like what are the things that, because listen, you know, before I even ask that, I think it's very important that whatever business you're in is, you know, we see this so much now in our industry, really specialization, right? You know, stay in your lane, do the thing that you do better than fucking anybody else in the world. So what are the, you know, that's what you do. What are some of the things that you don't do?
So we don't do anything owner occupied. Okay. And I always love to start there, especially if you have people who are newer, because a lot of people like to do things like house hacking or anything like that. Right. But a bigger one that plays into it is vacation homes. Some people come to us thinking I can get an Airbnb and stay in it a little bit and rent it out the rest of the year and it's fine. We still can't touch it.
Yeah. But would you fund, like if I wanted an Airbnb, you would fund that?
We will. Right now with Airbnbs, it's a little sketchy.
I'm seeing a lot of my friends that are selling off and liquidating their Airbnbs right now.
Almost every investor that we know that has a decent number of them is either backing away from them and just kind of waiting to see what happens. Most are not adding to that portfolio, right? Yeah. And then a number of them are switching them over to long-term rentals. And even you take a little bit of a hit, but you got to have
but you have that stability, right? You know, and I don't want to get into an Airbnb thing, but you know, with our 80-something rentals, people always ask, why don't you do Airbnb? I'm like, man, I get it, and I know you can make more money, but I got to furnish it, and I feel like it's a job. I've got to constantly be turning it over and doing all these things. I just want to put somebody in there and not have to worry about it.
Yeah.
You know?
So that's actually a good example. That's one that we theoretically could do, and sometimes we help people if they used to run it as an Airbnb or going to switch it to a long-term rental. That's easier for us to handle. Yeah. But that's not our specialty, right? We will do some stuff in that 5 to 9 unit range, but really we are a 1 to 4 family lender. Okay. And that is the easy rental properties are the ones that we crush it on. And how well they cash flow can kind of change, and that's okay. Markets can change. We work all the way across the country.
Well, that's why I was
But it is the 1 to 4 family rentals, ground up and fix and flip, and that is
interesting. In all 50 states? Yeah, is there
not quite. We're at 49. Okay. Nope, sorry, 45, I think.
Oh, okay. Who's left out?
We're missing Vermont, North Dakota, South Dakota, Alaska, and Nevada.
Okay. Vermont, okay, beautiful place, probably not a lot going on.
Yep.
North, South Dakota, cows, outhouses. And what were the other ones?
Alaska and Nevada.
Alaska, yeah, unless you're building off the grid. Probably not. We close deals in Alaska for our clients, and it's a challenge up there. Yeah. There's only like 6 title companies or something in the whole state. And they don't like people coming in from out of state. It's always a challenge.
Nevada is always the one that people have an issue with, and it's just because legislation in Nevada is tough on lenders. So
interesting.
They suffered pretty big in the crash, so they cracked down, and you know, maybe rightfully so at the beginning, but we kind of got lumped into that.
Yeah, I get that. You know, we need a little correction. Like I was an investor before the crash, so I get it. Like something had to be done, you know, but as always, you know, our government always overcorrects one way or the other. Yeah. So
that one's a little tough, but the rest of the states we operate in.
Nice. So how'd you get into this business?
So I was originally set to work on Wall Street.
Really?
I grew up in Connecticut. I went to school in Connecticut. I went to business school.
Patriots fan?
I'm not. So in Connecticut, because
don't be a Jets fan. Don't be a Jets fan.
Well, we don't have professional sports teams. The last sports team we had was the Whalers.
It's 20 miles away. Foxborough's 20 miles away at best.
So I grew up with, I followed college sports rather than professional. Okay. That was our, it was UConn basketball and football.
Yeah, in Tennessee, it's all college ball too.
Yeah.
But, all right.
So that was my thing. But I went to school. I was planning to either work on Wall Street or work in insurance, because that's what almost everyone that is in Connecticut does. Yeah. And then second half of my senior year of college, because second half of your senior year of college, you're like, I'm packing it in. Yeah, I've done well up until now.
I've got everything lined up. I'm ready.
I took a class. It was called Real Estate Investments. Yeah. There's this guy he was from rural Tennessee, and he had moved to the East Coast, and he is like one of the leading experts in the world in REITs.
Okay. Which are real estate investment trusts.
Yes. Yeah. I should have explained that. No, okay. And he was extremely knowledgeable in what he did, had an incredible personality, and was also a very good teacher, and would take really complicated topics like REITs and break them down into really simple bites that people could understand.
And there's not much real estate education in universities.
No.
In college, right? Like
virtually none. Yeah. So I took that class just out of an interest, because I was like, oh, maybe I'd want to become an investor myself someday. Sure. And loved it. And then I went, well, there goes my plan, right? So then I had to start I just started looking for any foot in the door that I could get into real estate investing.
Okay.
So I was looking at commercial firms. I was looking to mostly work in, the financial side with like being a financial analyst there, working in accounting. It was in finance.
Okay.
So that's how it started. And then I really got lucky at effectively like the email version of a call center kind of role, like your leads coming into RCN, and I would reply to them, and then I started
you went right to work for RCN.
Yeah.
Oh
yeah.
Shit. Okay. Usually people have this crazy story of how they meandered their way into where they're normally at.
I did work for a year as a long-term sub for kindergarten, so it did kind of meander a little bit.
Did you have them duct taped to the walls? Because there's no chance. I think they're cute and all, but like after about 40 minutes, I'll be like, nope, nap time for the rest of the day. The rest of the year is nap time.
It's a lot of fun, and I loved it. Obviously, there's a very big difference between how well you do financially being a kindergarten teacher and going into real estate.
Yeah.
Right? It's two different worlds. It's a lot of fun, and I actually learned a lot of different skills to go through and how you have to take a concept to explain it to someone when they're 5 versus when they've never gotten exposure to it before is actually kind of simple. Like if I can explain it to a 5-year-old,
well, that's always been a litmus test. Like, can you explain this back to me like I'm a 5-year-old?
Yep.
Right? Like, do you understand it? So,
and
that's always kind of one of my superpowers of making complicated things simple, right?
Yeah.
We believe simple is scalable and all those things.
Yeah. That's how it started. And then with RCN, the only way that I can phrase it is Jeff, our CEO, who I know you've met, and Erica, our CMO now, they kind of just kept giving me stuff.
Yeah.
And they went, hey, try this, right? Or, hey, we need someone to run this. And I would do well with it. And then they went, okay, here's another one.
Yeah.
And almost 7 years later, that's been my career. I start in one place and they kind of keep giving me new places.
So cool. Let's hone in on that because I think that's a great lesson because we have a lot of people from various, backgrounds. Maybe I'm thinking about real estate all the way to, guys that are doing 40, 50 deals a month. And, for those people that are still maybe in the working world and not in their own business, right? Like that's what happened to me, right? It's very similar to that. I used to tell people when I ran large retail stores, like I wasn't born a store manager or regional manager. Like that's not the way this worked. I had to work my ass off, but I got an opportunity like you, seize the day. I went out and you're like, I want to do something extra. I want to show you and bring value, right, to the company. And when you do that, like that's how you get promoted. I've explained to people so many times, when I ran stores, I'm an idiot. Like I'm a goofball, right? Like I know there are some things I'm good at, but I'm not good at everything. So any manager I think wants to surround themselves with really great, talented people who believe in the vision and doing all the things. So, when somebody like you, they're like, hey, you want to do this other thing? You're like, yeah, man, absolutely. And then, you do it, and then you get promoted and you just continue to grow. And now you've got this awesome spot. I know you're high enough up at RCN, like your face is on the website. So, you're up there. It's definitely paid off for you.
Yeah. It's a cool experience. And one of the things that I try to remember, and I write this to myself on a regular basis, but I also talk about with my team is you have to work hard enough to get lucky. Right.
Sure. Yeah.
And that's the way that I look at it is like, if you work hard enough, you get put in enough of the opportunities where one of them is going to work out. Right. And that's true in almost everything that I've sat with, but it's definitely true in this industry. Yeah. Which is, you look at 1,000 deals, one of them's going to work out.
Yeah. Right? No, 100%. People asked us that, because we had really great success once we started wholesaling. Like, how did you do it? How'd you grow so fast? How'd you do 50 deals your first year? Like, well, we just got up the fucking plate a lot.
Yep.
We swung at a lot of fucking balls, Yeah, I've done 1,600 deals, but I've missed on 10,000, like literally, but, you have to get over that, whatever it is to make the offers. And you got to take a lot of swings.
Yeah.
So, no, I think those are all great lessons.
That's one of the places that I get that a lot is with public speaking, less so podcasts and stuff like that, but more so presentations. Yeah. Because I feel very comfortable up there now, and I'll have people start.
I am not comfortable.
And so there's so many people that I talk to like this, where they're like, I hate public speaking, and I was like, do it 500 more times.
Yeah, no, I get it. Like, yeah.
And you have to pick stuff that you're gonna have fun talking about. You have to kind of bring your own personality into it, but you have the combination of usually people are off by an order of magnitude with what's required.
Yeah.
Right. So they're going to look at 10 deals. They needed to look at 100.
Right.
They're going to present 10 times. They needed to do it 100 times. You notice that with phone calls and stuff like that too. Right. But that kind of combined with the ability to look at what am I doing and what am I failing at and how can I figure it out from there, taking the complicated topics and just saying like, okay, well, what's one thing I can figure out from this?
Interesting. Yeah, no, Sheikah was about 4 years ago. Boy, when you did that first mastermind that I spoke at, like I had such stage fright, it was horrible. Like you would not believe how bad it was. And I got mad. I'm like, this is dumb. I'm gonna just keep getting up on stage until I get it.
Yep.
And you know, I can do it, but it still makes me nervous.
So one of the things, depending on what the room is and everything, like to speak at this mastermind, for example, I would be nervous.
Yes.
Yeah. And I can be completely upfront about that.
I would be afraid of being judged, right?
When I'm on the same stage as some of these guys But for the most part, when I sit and talk to people, it's like, okay, so if everyone in the audience thinks I'm stupid, who cares?
Yeah.
Right. And that's a big thing that I try to play with often and frankly, it's probably some of what's gotten me to where I'm at is the ability to look stupid and just kind of go through and do things anyway.
Well, man, I don't ever want to look stupid. Like I go out of my way not to look. I feel like I slide into home base on stupid all the fucking time. So the way that I look at it, and this took me a little bit, was, well, first off, if you're an expert at anything, you take that for granted.
Yep.
You know, it's like I speak Greek. You don't speak Greek? Well, it's the easiest thing in the world to speak, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, the thing that you're good at, and all of us have an amazing superpower, you take that for granted. You don't think it has any value, right? So for me, I realize now that, you know, the things that I'm good at, the marketing, the dispositions, the transactions, you know, running a business, building a corporation, or, you know, scaling up. Well, now I realize that's very common to me. And sure, there are people better. There are always going to be people better. But there's always people in the audience where I can change their life, right? Just by them listening to just the experience of 22 years. Like, if by fucking default, I'm going to have learned two things, right? In 22 years, you know, that somebody out there may need to hear, and that helps them, right? Yeah. So that's the mindset that I go up on stage with now. You know, what can I do to help impact, hopefully, somebody's life here? You know?
Yeah. One of my favorite plays to do that with is to go up on stage and just say, all right, everyone, what's your questions?
Yeah. Oh, God, I would much rather do questions and answers than
I've just started doing that.
Yeah.
Like, there's some presentations, like especially smaller groups or something, rather than 30 people listen to me go through a PowerPoint presentation.
Oh, God.
It's just, I'll sit up there, I'll hang back, cross my legs, and all right, what you guys got?
Right.
You know?
Well, I explain that to people. You know, most people have never given a Zoom, like a real Zoom presentation. And I'm like, bro, I'm just staring at this lens on a camera, talking about slides. I would much rather open this thing up and do Q&A.
Yeah.
That for me is far more entertaining, and you know, I could, because now I can answer your questions. Because otherwise, I'm just having to assume this is what you want to know. So I'm with you. I would way rather do that or be up there on a panel. Yeah. You know, like it's weird. I can do a panel, like 2 or 3 people for whatever, and like my heart doesn't skip a beat. But being up there by yourself.
Yep.
You know, now all the spotlight's on me.
With a panel, you feel like if you get off topic, other people kind of drag you back. With a presentation, you're like, if I get up off topic, are other people going to be able to bring me back? Am I just going to be off on a weird tangent somewhere? Yeah.
Well, then the problem becomes, and this happened to me at Investor Fuel, the last one we were at. I'm like, the back of my brain, I'm like, I'm talking too fucking much. I'm talking too much. Shut the fuck up. I literally took my mic and put it behind me in the seat, because I'm like, I have to shut up. I'm the guy who's hogging, you know, who's talking too much, you know. Also, who doesn't want to talk on his own up here, and just shut the fuck up.
If it makes you feel better, what I've started doing on panels over the last couple of years is I will ask questions to the other panelists. Yeah. Which, if you have people who are really good, they're fine with it. People who aren't they're always a little uncomfortable. Oh, yeah. But I'll just be like, actually, I've been meaning to ask you about that. And just like,
well, that's why we do podcasts, so we can talk to cool people. Yeah. You know, one time I was in San Antonio at a big RIA, and, you know, I wasn't as polished or used to being on stage. And so it was Q&A, and it was me and 2 other guys up there. And someone asked a question. I'm like, here's your answer. The dude fucking next to me stands up and gives like this 15-minute soliloquy, you know? It was like War and Peace and this great story. And the whole time I'm looking at him going, motherfucker, god damn, you know, damn. You know, and then another time in Milwaukee, I had to speak after Eric Klein. which was the worst thing ever. Because Eric and we're good friends, but he has this amazing story. And like the crowd gave him 3 standing ovations, and I had to go up there afterwards, and I'm like, let's hear it for Eric Klein. That's the only applause I'm going to get. Like everybody residual clapping for somebody else. So being on stage it's a wild ride. So what's next for you? What's next for you in RCN? What's the big plan for this year? What's your goals?
Yeah, so a lot of what we've been doing over the last few years is trying to figure out, for us, a lot of it has been an education play, right? Which is not, we're trying to create education to go and sell it. Like, if that's the route that people go, that's fine. But a lot of it for us has been, we have a lot of data. We have a lot of experience. Like, we funded 25,000 or so transactions in the last
how much
13 years.
Because Tim's told me, how much you guys fund a year? I just want you guys to understand this. Like, RCN's not like this small company.
I think we'll probably be somewhere around 1.5 billion.
Billion.
Yeah.
Billion.
Yeah, so we do about 150-ish million dollars a month. And that comes out to somewhere between 500 and 700-ish deals.
Holy shit.
A month, yeah.
Yeah.
When I started, we were doing 10 to 12 million a month. That was 7 years
And what
ago.
is it? What's RCN? It's like rehab?
So when we first started,
right? I've looked this up.
So when we first started, it was called Rehab Cash Now.
Rehab Cash Now, okay.
And then Erica, who is our CMO, who will hate that I brought up this story.
Dude, I'm going to tell you, I like that name way better.
So it started as Rehab Cash Now, and then we decided to brand it to be a little bit more professionalized. Because the goal from us from the start was to try to figure out how we can professionalize hard money. Like that was the goal that we sent out with.
I get it, but RCN could mean anything. It doesn't.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Erica, you're wrong. Sorry. No, I
didn't say it. It was David.
It was me. I'm going to take that heat. We still want to work with you, Erica. But no, I think I'd like the other name. I think because it tells you exactly what you're doing.
Yeah.
You know, I think RCN does sound very Wall Street.
Yeah,
you know?
and that's, I mean,
we're
based in Connecticut. Yeah. We started interacting with a few different financing partners around the same time, and so it helps us sound a little bit fancier, which helped. So
well, you know, I talk about
can't complain too much. It's worked out. So.
Yeah, you're okay at $1.5 billion a year. Like, what does my little 10 million mean? Nothing, right? That our company does. But no, it's cool. It's impressive for sure. So, well, cool. What's the best way for people to get a hold of you?
The best way to get a hold of us, honestly, for the most part, is go to the website. Yep. There's a little chat there in the corner you can grab. You have most of the people in the company are on there. You can filter through for different areas. So we have teams in Connecticut, Charlotte, and LA.
Yeah.
You can reach most of us. I'm on there. Most of our management team is on there.
Yeah.
You can find me on LinkedIn if that's easier and if that's your jam. Feel free to find me there. I don't post as much as I should, but I'll get to it sometime.
One of these days.
And then, honestly, you can find us at a lot of conferences.
Dude, you're everywhere.
We go
I feel like
all
I'm in a
over
lot
the
of
place.
places. You guys are way more than me.
Yeah, we've toned it back a little bit, but we were doing the last few years, especially before COVID started and everything, 2018, 2019, we were doing 50 to 60 conferences a year, right? So we're going almost every single week someone is somewhere. I would say at this point we're a little bit lower than that, but we're still almost every week someone is somewhere.
Wow. Yeah, I was like 120 days or something last year, and like it almost broke me. Like I committed to this year having to do like half of that.
Yeah.
It just gets to be too much.
Yeah, once or twice a month isn't too bad, but after that it's
Man, I did a couple like 10, 11, 12 days like stints, like 3 of them last year. And like that right there was 30 days and 3 trips. Like it's a lot.
I've only done twice in my career. I've done 10-day trips. One was 4 conferences, 10 days, and it was Miami to Vegas to San Francisco. That one almost killed me.
The first one I did last year was San Diego to Phoenix to Houston, and then I did a bunch in Texas last year where it's like, Dallas, Houston, San Antonio, Dallas, Austin, San Antonio, and like those are just long ass trips. You're cooked by the time you're done.
Yeah, it is a good time. And now that we travel this much, you have friends on the road and everything.
Exactly.
So you see people and you do have a good time, but it is they're not short days.
Yeah, us and our first world problems of flying first class all over the country, right? I'll tell you though, it's terrible. I went to an event which was a great event, but it was in Las Vegas and I knew not one vendor there. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't know anybody here. This is really weird.
Yeah, I've had it happen a couple times in the last few years, but it's been a minute since I've been to an event where I know no one.
Yeah. It was kind of strange. I'm like, I don't know what I'm gonna do. I'll figure something out.
Yeah. That's one of the things that I tell people that join our team is find people that work at other companies to kind of become friends with.
Yeah.
And that's really true for investors too.
Yeah.
Which is find other investors in the area and other markets that you can kind of start to interact with and collaborate with, because it makes it so much easier when, from our perspective, you might be jumping around the country and it might be, hey, I have these projects that I'm trying to figure out and I've got 8 shows in between when I started it and when that's supposed to be done. And even for investors, hearing no so often or seeing the lack of progress so often, it helps to have the other people around you to kind of anchor that.
And I tell that to investors all the time. That's frequently on a podcast. They're like, what's your one piece of advice? And I'll say, listen, this can be a lonely business, right? If you're working at your kitchen table and you're all by yourself and, you're going to get a lot of no's and it's a lot of struggles. So I always tell people, get a tribe. Find some people, in your local area that you can chat with and talk to and, see them going through the same thing, and you can experience their wins and, they can help you and you can help them, or at least online, right? But definitely, get around some people that, because you need to see people winning. Yeah. Right? Because
and I think just as important is seeing other people have the same losses that you have.
Yeah. And so you don't think it's just you.
You don't think it's just you, and you can sit down and be like, I went through that. Here's how I got through it, and it can kind of help them too. And sometimes even before you get the wins of I closed my first deal, but if you're talking to another new investor and they're struggling with their first contract falls out from somewhere, and you're like, I've done 3 of those already. Don't worry, it'll be fine.
Because I don't want you to go, real estate doesn't work. Obviously, clearly, real estate works. I promise you. You just need to get that first deal and get that proof of concept.
Yeah.
So. Well, cool. Well, hopefully RCN can help you with that first deal. RCN.com.
Yeah, RCNcapital.com.
Cool.
Whatever questions you guys have, feel free to reach out to us. We're happy to help.
Awesome.
And appreciate
we'll tag you and put all those links in the video here. Cool. Guys, have a great day. Go out there and get some contracts.